That's right, Brandis. And today is the one-year anniversary of the derecho storm that brought dangerous and damaging winds to the Chicago area. And just yesterday, half a dozen or more tornadoes touched down in the Chicago suburbs with more severe storms moving through the area as we speak right now and headed to the city. And those come as hot and humid conditions have prompted extreme heat warnings for the next several days. Joining us to talk about Chicago's Wild Weather Week are Scott Collis, an atmospheric scientist at Argonne National Laboratory, and Victor Gensini, professor of geographic and atmospheric science at Northern Illinois University. Welcome back, both of you, to Chicago tonight. I'll start with you, Victor. We got reports that it's getting pretty bad out there again, especially northwest of the city. What's the latest that you're hearing?
Well, everybody in the Chicago metro area is under a severe thunderstorm warning right now. In fact, about 10 minutes ago, I had about a 60-mile-per-hour wind gust here at my house. So after the show, I'm going to go assess for tree damage. That warning will extend until 8:30 p.m. Central Local. So the Chicago metro area and downtown Chicago is still not out of the woods yet. We're still looking at the possibility for heavy downpours of rain, frequent lightning, and the possibility for damaging winds.
And Victor, just to clarify, if you're at Northern Illinois, you're in the DeKalb area, I assume?
Yeah, that's right. I live in the Sugar Grove area, which is just to the east of DeKalb, but the storms have passed through here already.
And so that area was hit last night as well. Scott, what are the factors driving these outbreak of storms and this extreme heat?
Well, there's one thing in common. That is the heat. Hotter air holds more moisture. And we currently have a flow of air from the Gulf of Mexico right now. And the Gulf of Mexico is actually sitting around about 1 degree Celsius. So, just about 2 degrees Fahrenheit, hotter than normal for this time of year. And this time of year is the hottest that water mass gets. So it's pumping moisture and heat into our atmosphere. We don't have some of the upper level winds that really help make these really, really bad storms right now. But at the moment, that heat and moisture is enough to keep these storms going.
And Victor, as I understand, you actually spotted some of these tornado touchdowns last night. How many actually did touch down and where were they?
I saw 5 tornadoes yesterday. The National Weather Service right now believes that around 7 tornadoes have been confirmed. 3 of those have ratings of EF1 on the Fujita scale, the high end of that, so roughly 110 miles per hour, we think. And those in particular would be the Sycamore, Illinois tornado, the Burlington, Illinois tornado, and the McHenry tornado. All of those will get at least EF1 rating right now in the preliminary fashion. And Scott is exactly right. It's the heat and humidity. Also, though, coming from the corn and soybeans around here today, we're not. I think many of us in August expect the heat and humidity, but if you walked outside today, it was oppressively humid. And then again, Scott is exactly right. That's what is helping fuel these storms.
And corn sweats is a term I learned when I came to Illinois, and I wish I didn't know.
What's the term?
Corn sweat.
Horn sweat. All right. Well, speaking of that,
yes.
we've got heat indices causing this horn sweat of about 110 degrees. How dangerous is that for people, for anybody, animals outside for long periods of time? Scott Collins. Go ahead, Victor.
Oh no, either of us I think are qualified for this question. I think the thing is, if you're exposed directly to the sunlight, not in the shade, if you're not staying hydrated, really this can overtake anybody, even the healthy of us, outside. Even if we're exercising outside and we feel like we can beat it, the reality is heat exhaustion and heat stroke are very, very real, and they often kill more people every year than something like tornadoes.
And Scott, I'll give you a stab at this as well.
Yeah, so the heat index, which is what our excessive heat warning is based on, is a mixture of the humidity and the temperature. And what it's really meant to represent is the ability for your sweat to work. Your sweat cools you down, it evaporates. When it gets really moist and muggy like this, it just doesn't work so good. So everyone should be staying hydrated and trying to stay out of the elements over the next couple of days.
So now that I have you both on, I want to ask your reaction to this very stark Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change report that came out. Scott Collins, first to you, saying that it's very likely that the Earth is going to warm another 1.5 degrees over the next decade plus, and we're going to have to do a lot of work to keep carbon dioxide at levels to not make the Earth warm more. What's your reaction?
Just to clarify, the number we're talking about is 1.5 degrees total warming. We're already at 1.1 degrees Celsius total warming, 1.5 degrees, about 2.7. This is an amazing report. The language in this report is more stark and more clear and more brutal than any other past report. And it really is a sign how our climate science has gotten a lot better, that we're starting to learn how to attribute weather to climate, the weather that we see that will be a result of these increased temperatures. The other thing that the IPCC did is they designed an emissions curve to keep emissions at 1.5, keep temperatures at 1.5 degrees Celsius. So there is a blueprint for how to avoid the worst effects of climate change.
And that really is limiting and even taking out massive levels of carbon dioxide out of the atmosphere. Victor Gensini, and we should stipulate we don't know with any kind of definitive proof that a single weather event like today and yesterday is tied to climate change, but we're talking in the aggregate warming and more severe weather. What does this report portend for Chicago and the Midwest?
Well, Scott hit the nail on the head. It's a long report. It's 3,500 pages. There is a lot of, I think, doom and gloom in there, to be honest. But there's also a lot of hope. The plan is laid out in terms of what we can do to mitigate carbon emissions going forward. For the Chicagoland area, especially when it comes to heat and humidity, actually, the report has actually shown that the number of hot days here, if you compare to 1930s, say 1950s, has gone down. A lot of that is because we're changing the land surface around northern Illinois and especially portions of the Corn Belt, where we have a lot of corn and soybeans, which actually brings up the temperature at night. But during the day, it's a little bit harder to get over, say, 100 and 105 degrees Fahrenheit. We should see heavier rainfalls, more efficient rainfalls. This obviously has big impacts on things like urban flooding and agriculture across the northern Illinois area. So there's lots to digest here, including the impacts of changes for things like severe thunderstorms, which we are seeing right now.
All right, we're going to keep digesting this as these storms progress and if they progress the rest of the week. But for now, our thanks to Scott Collis and Victor Gensini.
Thanks, Paris.
Thank you.